Hello, Phil and Newton England are back with another look at some floor plans. We're going to look at this one in a little bit more detail because this contains the games that never were. Now, I did mention in an earlier video that some games were sketched in, but they never made it to the final edit. So you're probably wondering where they were going to be. So this is a first draft. It's the blueprints for Series 1, as I said. The Crystal Maze 2017, set at Bottle Yard Studios down in Bristol. And this is a game layout plan dated the 6th of March 2017. Most of the games were used. They did make it to the final edit, but we're going to have a very quick look at some of those that didn't. We're going to start off in Industrial Zone. We've got in Cell 2 a game called Plug the Gap. As I said, obviously that was never used. It was probably designed, and for whatever reason, they never decided to use it in the final series. Moving to Cell 3, we've got Magnet Pipes, which wasn't used. And then I think that's it for there. Just checking before we move on to the next zone. Coming up then to Medieval. As you can see here, we've got in Cell 1, Cannonball. And then underneath, door anagrams. Now, I do know that they did technically use the cannonballs to open the door anagrams, but because there's a gap here, I'm assuming that it was another game as well. So Cannonball never made it. Door anagrams did, and then there's another space here for the jailer game. Moving across to Cell 2, we had a game called Medieval Skittles, which never made it to the end. Moving down then across to Futuristic, and Cell 1, we had a game called Drone Prism. Now, that'd be quite interesting if it did use a drone to fly around. That'd be quite interesting. And just touching as well. Touchscreen Chain is another one. They didn't do that, I think, financially. They'd run out of money, or it just wasn't technically viable to do. Obviously, that Cell, which I did explain in the previous video, was done away with to extend this one. And then moving across, Cell 3, Holograms. That would have been an interesting one. See what's done there. We've got Sweeping Lasers and Planet Walk, which were included, but Holograms was one that didn't make it to the final. And then we come down to Aztec, and probably the most important one here in Cell 2, Murder Mystery. Yes, that was a very, very popular game from the original series back in the 90s. The contestant had to go into a room, solve one puzzle, which would lead on to another puzzle, and so on and so forth. Basically, the beginning of what we now know as escape rooms, where you had to solve one puzzle in order to move on and to progress to get out of the cell, in this case to get the crystal. So yes, Murder Mystery was planned for Cell number 2 there. Moving along as well, we've got more or less the same for the water room, but then in this one for Cell 5, we've got a game called Falling Coins. Again, that was never used, never seen. Ball Balance and Word Wheel were. And then at the bottom, finally, one called Water Wheels. Now, I do actually have a guidebook with all the games in it, and Water Wheels is one of those that's shown. So it does give a diagram and a description of what you had to do. I will show you that book later on. Again, it is all sort of behind the scenes, confidential stuff, but I think it's really interesting that the work that went into all the games and production of the Crystal Maze. It's not just the set, which is fantastic, but it's all the back work as well. So there you go, that was your final one there, Water Wheels. So there are the games that were planned but never used or seen in the final show. Great shout out to the games team, Anna Kidd, Rosie Westwood and Ben Norman. They did a fantastic job. I did apply, put some ideas forward for games. As you know, I designed games for Series 6 of the original show. I did send the producers, Neil and Chris, some designs for games, but unfortunately all the games were already prepared and already planned before that. I would have loved to have been a games designer and have some fantastic ideas. And basically it's just a shame that they're never really going to get used. If the show ever does come back, who knows? But you know, I shall try again to try and get some more games used on future shows. So there you go, beautiful blueprints of Series 1's games that never were. Until next time, take care.